everybody, I'm Tom Vassell.
I'm Violet.
And I'm Ruby.
And today we're reviewing this monstrosity called Agemonia. This is a giant game, and it is giant every way you can look at it. Like, there's a ton of pieces. It's a big campaign-style game where you're going to take some fantasy characters, starting with helping some people you meet by helping people escape a flooding inn, and then the story grows. So there's so much going on in this game. I'm not going to be able to show you everything, but here's a little bit about how it works. There are 3 giant books included with this game: the campaign book, the scenario book, and the story book. The campaign book is what you'll be using to run your campaign, and there are some rules in this game, particularly with the tutorial. The tutorial will walk you through the first 3 scenarios. After that, you are going to be, at the beginning of a scenario, you are going to town. The game comes with a little map of town, and it shows you different locations on the map. It also shows you your sort of how you're going to interact with different guilds in the game, which has a very weird kind of legacy part. I don't understand why there's stickers here and you can't keep track of that somewhere else. But as you put these stickers, sometimes it will get to a specific number, which will go to the storybook, and you're going to read stories, find puzzles, all sorts of things. And the same thing will happen here. Players will be able to go to the different locations in town, which will depend on your level. So like this is the level 1 pages. When you get to level 2, you're going to have even more buildings to go in town. It actually doubles. Each building, when you go there, you can buy items, you can do different things. You will have different events might occur to you the first time or different times that you go there. And then after that, you're going to go on a mission. As the game goes by, due to different things that will happen or places you go, you'll have the opportunity to have these different things that will happen. It will show you need to be a certain level before going to some of them. So if you want to do Rotwood Madness, you need to be level 4. When you take a journey, you'll read stuff from the book, and then you'll play the scenario. So let's say I pick Twilight Watch. I will then find all the cards that for Twilight Watch. They're in here, and there's going to be different cards. And I'm going to show you one of the tutorial scenarios. To play a scenario, you'll go to the scenario book, and it will give you some background, and then have the maps set up for that specific scenario. So, for example, for scenario 2, you would read all this. It tells you how to win the thing. It tells you some setup that you're going to do, and then you'll have the scenario set up. Players are going to be moving their characters around on this board, and as they move around on the board, you'll notice that there are different spots here on the board. So you can see here, this says B0. That means if I go into that spot, I'm 0 distance away, I will search this big deck here for card B, and it will do whatever it says on that card. Sometimes cards will present tests. Sometimes things will appear when you are 1 space away. That's what happens here. And so you have to be careful where you move because you might reveal things. There's also dots on the map to show how many different figures can fit in a different spot. There might be other terrain, like here you have to climb up a cliff. This red is impassable. There's various things. In this particular scenario, you have basically an ox cart. It's a strange fantasy animal that you are trying to get down this path, and creatures are going to attack you. But before we go any farther, let's talk about characters. Each player will start with a character, and that character will start with a couple built-in things. They have focus and extra maneuver, and you'll get more as you'll get your first ability after the flooded inn, if that's the scenario 1. You'll get your second one after the road to Runedale, and then as time goes by, you can get more and more of these special abilities. In fact, you'll have another board here for as you go up the different levels that will unlock to put more of these in. You'll have several that you have to pick from, and once you get to level 2, you will be picking between 2 different classes. You could be a ranger or a shaman, for example, this character here, and you'll be able to get special abilities, depending on which one you have, by doing different actions in town. Now, these boards here, and here's another character, for example, a rock creature. These boards here kind of show you, and they're all going to be different, but there's some important things on them. First of all, you have 3 stats at the bottom, basically your might, intelligence, dexterity on them, and that's going to matter a lot for the course of this game. But let's take a look here at Mattajam. So they have stamina here of 8. So you're going to take 8 stamina tokens and you're going to place them here. And you're going to be using these to do different things over the course of this game. Some abilities will cost 1 to use. But at the beginning of every round, when you're taking turns and actions in this game, you are going to be placing you have a little disc here before the action you're going to take. You always get a maneuver action. A maneuver is going to let you move. So for example, this character can move 2, or they can pay 1 stamina to move 3. They also, instead of moving as a maneuver action, they can recover. So they can take back some of their spent stamina. Or they can heal wounds if they've been wounded at all. So whatever you put here is going to do a couple things. Like this one here gives me an extra maneuver. This one gives me an extra die when I take tests. This one here lets me do an attack as my other action. But it also gives you a color, which is going to be determined and help determine initiative. After everyone chooses their action each round, you're going to turn over the top card of this deck, which is going to show you essentially the turn structure for that round. So anyone who picked a blue action goes first, anyone who picked a red action goes first, but then you'll notice here that the enemies are going to go. So each enemy will have a card based on the scenario. Here's a skitterer. You'll notice they have the blue enemy icon. So they would go here. It also shows the wide open eyeball, which shows what they do. In this case, they're going to move 1, and then they're going to attack you, and you have to defend against it with a strength test. Then there's other things on here. For example, this shows their hit points, which is 2 per player. So that's going to be based around. And you'll see if they have this closed eyeball, they just move around and snoop around. So there's some things on here. And you're going to keep track of these enemies with their hit points on a different board. Each enemy will have a different number when you put them out on the board. And then you'll just put one of these next to the board. You'll put the enemy card at the top of it so we know which enemy we're talking about. And you simply keep track of their hit points with 12-sided dice and knock them down as you hurt them. I should also mention that sometimes the cards that come out will give a free extra maneuver if you pick a certain color, and usually the red and blues go first, although sometimes it will give a special ability to the monster. Some monsters will do extra things if different symbols show up on them. When the card is over and everyone has gone for a round, you'll turn over the top card from here, which is used as a timer deck. Sometimes these cards, you need a random direction. It will show that on the card. And sometimes the numbers matter for various things in the scenario. Many times over the course of the game, you're going to be taking tests. Like, for example, here is a hard at work test. And let's say Torax is going to take this test. This is a strength test and needs a result of 6. It says if you have the axe, you get +2 successes, and the shovel +2 successes. So let's pretend Torax is trying this, and they have the axe. So they have +2. This is a strength check, so they're going to get to roll 3 dice. Now, if Torax had picked focus, they'll get 4 dice. So Torax is going to roll these 4 dice. Now, this gives 3 successes. Both of these each give 1 success and allow to roll again. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then Torax rolls again, 6, 7, 8. 8 + 2, 10. Nailed this test. Some tests you get to put stuff on and you can keep adding to it around. Usually these tests will be like 15 or 16. There's also another side to the test die that shows this. When this happens, you can add 1 or 2 successes, but only by spending stamina. So I could spend up to 2 stamina to get 2 successes. You run out of stamina, you're not going to be able to do this. You run out of stamina and wounds, and then your character will be wounded, which is a whole thing, and you can learn more about that when you play the game, but it's going to make you weaker. You'll get wound cards. You're going to have fewer hit points, etc., etc. Now, this test is also the same way that you would do combat, usually. You'll use a weapon, and the game comes with so many items. I don't want to spoil really any of them, but there's a whole ton of items, and you will simply roll whatever the attack is. Same thing, 1, 2, 3 damage, 4, 5, 6 damage. That's pretty good. And so all these things that you'll have, you'll be doing that. When you defend against enemies, you roll the blue dice, depending on what test. So if they were hitting me for strength, I'd roll this, and I would block 2 of the hits. The other hits would go through, and I would use stamina, but it would be converted into these wounds instead. So there's fighting in the game, but there's also exploring in all different tests. It does not permit me to tell you the rest of the rules of the game. There is a lot going on. You're going to win or lose scenarios. When you lose a scenario, it has what's called a fail forward. You go to another scenario, but with some negative effects. but you're going to find all sorts of items, which incidentally, you know how much an item's worth because it's the same shape as money. You're going to get experience points. You'll get gems that you can spend to help you on tests and do various things. You'll get experience, which will help you level up to other levels. You have your own little book for each character, which on the back of your character board, you have a little story that gives you a start. But at towns, and when you go up another level, you'll read a little bit of a story, and also it gives you some choices, and you'll go to the back of the book, and it will tell you what happens for your choices and give you specific things for your character. There's a lot going on in the game. There's about 35 scenarios. I don't think you'll play all of them, but all sorts of things are going to happen to you. Enjoy the adventure. All right, there's a lot to talk about here. First of all, I said it's a big game. That's not a joke. We were using a typical table, you know, one of those white tables that you get at Costco or whatever, that you can play on. And we used every inch of that table, and it was all over the floor next to us and on chairs. Just so many pieces and so many. There's 3 books. You know, there's the map book, there's the story book, there's the book about the actual, you know, some of the rules of the game, and then there's another book with rules, and I just, it was a little overwhelming, I thought. Constantly looking for pieces. I don't think the game is that hard to play and teach, I mean.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that there's just stuff everywhere. It's also such a big game that the fact that there are 3 complete games in the tutorial, I mean, like, to get through that tutorial, what took us probably 6 hours, maybe a little bit less, but we were learning the rules, but there's a ton in that. And it feels like you're playing the game, you know, well, I mean, you are playing the game. And then when you're done, you're like, here's the town. And then you're like, holy moly, the town has added a ton more to the game. There's just so much in the game. But what did you all think about, let's talk about the fantasy world and the different characters you have, and there's a backstory for every character. What did you think about that?
I thought the characters were very interesting, and especially like their character designs, and I like how the character designs would be implemented into their skills as well.
You're just happy that you got 4 hands.
Yeah, I really like that.
I wish more games would do that. That was such a cool thing. Violet had 4 hands, which let her have more stuff. That was just such a neat. I mean, I was also super jealous.
I didn't even notice.
Yeah.
Like at first, I'm like,
I was just like looking, like,
and then like I noticed I have like 4 hands by design. Like,
No,
how come
I
I can't
pointed
carry
that
4
out
stuff?
to
And then I
you.
checked it. Okay. No, I said it first.
No, I did.
Whatever. I had 4 hands, and I'm like, it'd be cool if I could hold 4. And then I could. I didn't even notice until I checked.
And it was really neat, though, that you can do that. And the characters, we played 3 very different characters. I played the rock creature, big, slow, strong, but slow. Did I mention he's slow? So annoying.
We left him behind so many times. He was just kind of standing in the field while we were already exploring the castle.
And you're playing like a little assassin guy running around.
Yeah, I feel like my character was just like above average compared to the other players. Cause like
It seems so unfair that you had no skills that you were bad at.
That's it. You're just average. No, but
Not average, a little above average.
But once you get, then you have those assassin skills and things like that. But did you like the background stories, like what it talked about, and the character designs?
It's very refreshing that there's a game with character backstories that's actually relevant in any way.
Okay.
No, I think the stories that were relevant were cool. It's just they didn't mix in with the story well, because I don't know why they were traveling with companions, and in the story they wouldn't even mention the fact that you were traveling with people.
Well, it's hard to mix those together, but it mentioned that we were together because we all met at the inn, and then we got airlifted out of the inn, and then
but like in stories, it was just, oh, you're moving on to the next area. We are not telling your companions because we don't even know if they exist in this game or not.
Sure. Did you like that little book, though, that had the little choose your own adventures for your character?
Yeah.
Now, what do you think about the skill system? Rolling dice and the exploding dice, where if you roll the one symbol, you get to roll it again, and then different dice for defense.
I have to say I like it better than most others, mainly because it's not as difficult. Like, you're far more likely to win a skill check in this game than most other skill checks in games I've played.
Yeah, because like you don't have to hope that you'll get like a 1 out of 6, 7 different times, and then you pass the skill check.
Yeah, and I mean, you can, like,
And you can also manipulate them really easily.
What about the monsters and the fighting? Did you think it was hard, easy?
Yeah, fighting the monsters wasn't too difficult at all. And maybe it's because we didn't get too far into the game, but like they were pretty easily manageable. You can manage a lot of them by yourself as well.
I almost
you almost
died in our
died.
last game.
You were fine.
Thanks to you.
Ruby could have healed you. She just chose not to.
I could have? Oh, right.
That's right. We ended the round, and Ruby said, "I'm like, why do you have all these potions sitting here?" There's a lot of. This game is lovingly designed. There's so much craft and care. Some of the cool little features are, if you get an item, the shape of that item is the same shape as the coin that how much it's worth. So it might
That's
be
really
worth
cool.
1, 3. That's a neat thing they added. The town there's just so much to do. It's almost overwhelming how much stuff there is to do in town because you have that one book. And then you have your own little character book, and it lets you do more things in town. But it is fun to gear up and go out on the mission and then pick your skills. In this game, it's really fun to level up. There's so many different ways. Not only do you level up as your character, you get a profession, which gives you more benefits and things you can do when you're in town. So this game does something that was in Gloomhaven and other games where there's random events in town and or on your way to your mission. I don't know that I love those. Because on one hand, it's interesting to see these random things happen. And I like the decks, and it's even interesting that there's a random event in there for each character. And or something we might do, like that box we grabbed, sticks a random event in there, that might come up. I just felt the random events gave you a random choice, which could just randomly smack you around if you made the wrong choice. Gloomhaven did the same thing. But it's like, are you going to help this guy or fight this guy? And we're like, we have no concept of what to do. Well, help him. Okay, everyone loses 3 hit points. Like, oh.
Yeah.
I don't know that I like that. I wish there was more, like, help this guy, and you get some money. It would, like, almost give you, like, an idea of what the consequences would be. It just felt random to me, those events.
Yeah. Like, it was like, oh, try to help this guy. Oh. He hit you. Like
It didn't really leave any lasting things in the game either.
Yeah, and I get that there's these events in there, but I just wish they were cooler, and maybe we just had a string of bad events. Maybe there's some good ones in there, but they just always seem like, oh boy, here we go, random event. But I want to give them also big praise. I love map books. I wish every game did that. It's such a pain to set up a dungeon.
Yeah, especially when you had to like put the piece to piece together. Although the cards were a bit annoying. It was handy. It just trying to figure out exactly where they went, and then they get knocked around anyway.
Sure, but at least they have that on there. And there's so many things. You're like in the middle of a battle, and you're like, but also I would like to look in those bushes over there. Like, we need help fighting. I got it. But also,
Yeah,
there's
the
something
tiny
in
box
those
in the
bushes.
corner that may or may not be possessed by a demon.
That was me in the forest. I was just like, I could cut down this tree, or I can go look in that area that most likely has enemies.
Like,
Yeah,
I could go to the exit, or I could get another healing flower.
Yeah, there's a lot of... So the game definitely tempts you all the time. And there's really good stuff. There's really good stuff in there. I mean, the game in Mission 2, I think you get your first weapons, and they're terrible. They're like, we give you one small axe, here's a shovel, that's terrible, and a grappling claw, remember? So we're all fighting with weak weapons. But then after that mission, we're like, oh, thank you, we got our better weapons.
Spear.
And then you have to use an action. The action system's really cool. You know, you're not sure. Green actions are almost always last, but not always. Sometimes they're first, which is nice.
There's one card that lets them be first.
I think there might be 2, but yeah. And sometimes you get extra things, but also the enemies, they're stronger. I'm saying a lot of things I like about the game. There's another thing I don't like, and it's called the fail forward system. Normally I like fail forward. So what fail forward, and this game calls it fail forward, which feels very meta. I wish they wouldn't call it that. But anyway, fail forward means if you fail a mission, if you lose the mission, you still go on. You're like, well, we lost, but we still go on. And I like that, because I don't want to be like, you lost, replay the mission. Like, oh. You go forward. I think that's a good thing. But in this game, when you fail forward, you always have some negative stuff happen to you, and bad things, and you don't get good things, which means the next mission is even harder.
Yeah.
So then it just kind of is a snowball thing. While if you succeed on the mission, like our very, very first mission that we played in this, rescuing people from the end, we did not do so great on that mission. And that really affected us on our second mission. We barely survived the second mission because the first mission we didn't do so well on. Or was it the third? I forget. One of them, we didn't do so well because of us not doing well in the first one. When I say us, I mean you.
Why would you guys why was I the only one with the lowest intelligence going over to do a bunch of skill checks with intelligence?
That's because you had low intelligence. If you had smarter intelligence, you would have known not to go over there by yourself. And also, I would have helped you, but if you forgot, I'm slow.
Also, again, I think you forgot, none of us are particularly amazing at it. We just had one higher than you.
That makes a big difference.
Yeah, we definitely did not bring anyone with high intelligence in our games. That would have probably helped for some of the things. But overall, I mean, we could talk about this so much because there's so many things in it. And it's also, I mean, again, you can tell this game has inspirations in Gloomhaven. Definitely in Gloomhaven, but in other games too. It's not as programmable as Gloomhaven. There's definitely a lot more story involved here. So there's a lot of positives. I think it looks gorgeous on the table, although there's a ton of pieces all over the place. Yes. There's so much in here. You definitely are going to be like, I think, like when you first go to the city, you have at least 3 different missions you can go on. That's kind of cool. And then after that, it opens more doors, and there's more missions. So you're not forced to go to a mission, per se, and I think that's kind of fun. But there's a ton. What was your favorite thing about it?
Well, I liked how the map, when you look at it, you can kind of tell what will show up if you were to go to a certain spot, especially with big enemies. They make it super obvious. So, look at this. If you walk anywhere near here, it's most likely super dangerous.
Yeah, we definitely, yes.
We avoided many horrible things by just walking around them. Which
is realistic, right? If we're walking, there's a dark cave and you hear growling from that cave, we'd be like,
maybe don't go over there.
Yeah, let's not go in there. What about you?
Something similar, but when you actually go there, the cards that you flip over, I think that's really fun. Trying to figure out, do the skill checks, get what's there. Especially, if it... No, wait, that was it.
Yeah, so there's a lot going on in the game, but it has a really good story. But you're also going to be playing this game forever. We obviously did not finish the campaign because, well, we wanted to get this review out. So there's just a lot going on. So what would you all rank it?
I liked the game. I think the designs looked really good. I liked how the world was built and all the skill checks. I think it was all really interesting. I did have some complaints about it, for what you said, it's really, really long, especially getting through the tutorial. So I would probably give it an 8 out of 10.
Okay.
I really liked it. It's a lot of fun. The story's great. Going across the map is fun. 8.5.
Okay. And I'm also at an 8. There's a lot here to like. I mean, it is campaign, and there's only so many campaigns we can do at any given point. There's just a ton of them. But this is one of the best designed ones I've ever seen. I want to give him a bit of a pain about the rule book. I don't think the rule books were as well designed as they could have been. The tutorial helps teach you the game. I used 2 things. They have an app that reads a story to you, which we stopped doing after a while because the app wasn't as clean as I'd like it to be. But we also used a website called Dized, D-I-Z-E-D, to teach you the game. It walks you through the first... Actually, I think it walks you through the first 2 tutorials, and then the third one a little bit. And that was really helpful. That was really good. If you've never used Dized, D-I-Z-E-D, you should check it out. But the rule book, when I'm looking up a rule, I found myself looking in this book and then in that book. I was never really sure. I mean, it wasn't terrible rules. I mean, they were mostly there, but there's just a lot going on. This is a big experience, but you're going to get your money's worth out of Agemonia. I think it's going to be many people's game of the year. I enjoyed it a lot. So there you have it. Oh, also, my word, this thing is huge. This doesn't even include the monster miniatures, which is another box.
Yeah.
Anyway, until next time, I'm Tom Vassell.
I'm Violet.
And I'm Ruby.
See y'all on the other side.